While the refugee crisis is presenting problems across the globe, one entrepreneur is looking for solutions for the future. Roel Chandran is the executive director of the Global Alliance for Humanitarian Innovation. He's part of an initiative using technology to educate refugee youth so they don't miss out on key years for learning. And he joins us now. Thanks for coming in, Roel.
Thank you so much for having me.
So tell us about your program. What technology are you using? How does it work?
Well, it's the whole humanitarian system really getting together and saying, the scale of this problem is just too big. We cannot have these children missing out on all these years of school. It hurts us, it hurts our communities, it hurts the world. So let's put everything we've got in one basket and figure out how we can reach 30 million displaced kids over the next couple of years. How do we get to those kinds of numbers? And we're going to need new things, new technology.
So it involves apps, it involves tablets, the devices, both trying to get these to these kids, but then also making sure the programs are relevant, language specific?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of cool technology out there, right? But you want to make sure that the kids are actually learning, and they're learning in their old languages, and they're something that's culturally appropriate for them. And so it's taking all this cool technology, some of that's coming from here, a lot of which is coming from the communities themselves, which is the best part of what we do, and finding a way to get that out there and make it happen.
But a lot of refugees are in these massive tent cities. There might not be generators around. How do you ensure that this technology can keep running?
Most of the refugees, more and more we're finding them, they're in cities. They're moving away from the camps, they're moving away from that kind of model. And they're in Jordan, for example, the government has taken all of the kids into dual-shift schools. So governments are stepping up, they're seeing their obligation to these kids, and they're trying to figure out, how can we actually do this? How can we teach these kids? We don't have the money. And so these are tools that help them. A lot of these kids are in schools, and that's the good news. The bad news, or the challenge, is we've got to do better.
What are some of the specific things, though, that these apps or technology, I mean, because if they're in schools, obviously, hopefully, they're learning basic math and writing and whatnot, but are there other specific things to being a migrant that kids need to learn?
There's a lot. I mean, I'll be honest, we're still struggling. We haven't solved for all the problems. Being a refugee is tough. You're fleeing your home, you're running away from war. Sometimes your family is split up, and that's a very, very hard thing that we know hurts children. And so we have apps that do basic literacy, that do basic numeracy. Our partners do all of this work, and it's amazing stuff that they do. But they are more and more thinking, how do we integrate what we call the psychosocial stuff? How do we make sure that these help children find a framework, help them integrate into their societies, help them work with the kids from the country that's hosting them? How do we bring everybody together around the table? Because that, as you say, is the long term.
Have you met any of the kids that are receiving these tablets? Like, how do they feel that somebody across the globe is trying to help them?
The stories are amazing. I mean, the kids are really, really responsive, and we were at the United Nations this morning presenting some of this work, and our partners were showing just children around a table really learning from these apps, sort of taking steps, and the pride that they had and the pride that their parents have when they see them learning how to read, learning how to write, when they've fled their country with nothing on their backs, and they're starting to be citizens and part of society. That's, it's a gift.
And it sounds like that integration with other kids who may not be migrants or refugees is a crucial part of all this.
It's a crucial part, right? We know that displacement lasts a long time. The stats are hard. It's 18 years, sometimes more. So they're not going to go away. They're not often going back to their home countries for a long time. We've got to help them to be part of the societies they're in. We also know migrants help the societies they arrive in. They contribute, they're economic positives, they help almost everywhere if they're allowed to.
Roel Chandran, thank you for coming on. Good luck with all of this. It sounds wonderful.
Thank you so much for having me.
Still ahead.